we are on our last unit, or our last section of our data analysis unit. You are going to be able to create and analyze data from a scatter plot. So you need to know what a scatter plot is. I think of the root word scatter, and I think all around. Okay, so a scatter plot is just a collection of random points. Okay? It's a graph that represents the relationship of two sets of data. A variable, variables are things being compared on a scatter plot. So a variable are things being compared on a scatter plot. Okay, an example that I will give would be maybe I want a relationship between the amount of money, so amount of money and total bills, pretending you're an adult. What goes on the bottom is always the independent situation. It's the things that are going to happen no matter what. Dependent means how much you have depends on what's going on with your independent variable. So the dependent is always on the tall axis. So if I have amount of money and total bills, what do you think would go on the bottom? Kyle? Amount of money, right? I mean, amount of money, let's say, so if I have all this money, it's all mine. That's saying that it doesn't matter at all as far as bills. I think that bills go on the bottom. They're coming no matter what. You have to pay for your shelter. You have to pay for your food. No matter what, the bills are coming. Okay? And our money depends on our bills. So if I have no bills, hey, look at me, yay, I have all this money. And then as my bills increase, what do you expect my money to do? Decrease. So I should have this scatter plot. And why it's scattered, it's not a line, because everyone has a different amount of money. Okay? Everyone has a different amount of bills. All right? Somebody here has a lot of bills, and they don't have a lot of money. Somebody here has a lot of bills, and guess what? Whatever. Doesn't bother them. Someone famous, right? Bill Gates. He's got all these bills. Whatever. It's okay. I'm still rolling in my money. It doesn't matter at all. Okay? So, as you can see, but you would expect that the amount of money, typically, the amount of money that you have, girls, the amount of money that you have would typically decrease. You'd think it would be like most people would be somewhere around here, that the more their money, the more bills they have, the less money they have. Okay, but you do get those little outliers. Okay, you need to be able to interpret scatter plots today. You're going to find the data they're asking for, and then from there you're going to see what the data is for the other variable. Sometimes they're going, and it all depends what they ask you for. For example, let's look at this scatter plot. A scatter plot is not connected. They're just a whole bunch of points. It's a collection of points. Looking at this scatter plot, the first thing you should always do when you look at a graph or a table of any sort is figure out what they're talking about. Years of education, income. Okay, so now I can kind of get the gist of it. So the more education I have, I'd imagine my income is going to be higher, right? Let's look at this first example. How many years of education does a person who earns $80,000 have? Typical. So I'm talking about $80,000 a year, looking over, and it looks like they have what, 14 years? And then we have a 15-year, so 14 or 15 years.
That's a lot.
12 years for high school and getting through high school, and then 4 years for your bachelor's. 14 years. 16. How much does a person make on average who completes 9 years of education? So let's look where 9 is. And how much money do they make? 20,000. 20,000 averages out to about $1,666 a month, which you might be like, woo, that's great money. But then you divide that by the 4 weeks in a month, you're only making $400 each week. And when you have a family, you got food, you got shelter, you have gas, clothes, you have so much. That $400 is gone in a blink of an eye, right? So you definitely want to make sure that the more education you receive, the higher income you will have. These are my favorites, making predictions about particular people. What can you conclude about a person represented by point A on the graph? So I look, where's point A? Hey, here they are. So what do I know about person A? M?
They went to college for that many years and then decided not to get a very good job.
Well, I would say that they just finished high school.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe they're a high school graduate? Did they go to college? No, because they're done. They're done at this 12th year, right? So what I can say is graduated high school. I'm going to just write HS. Graduated high school, earns 20.
What made for college?
And maybe they're saving up. You never know. Everyone's got a unique story. You never know what's going on. Person A might just be saving up. Maybe they don't have any support. Maybe they're not sure what they want to do yet. You just never know. But look at this. What's beautiful about scatterplots is it doesn't mean everybody who only finishes high school makes 20,000. Look at this person. This person only received a high school education. They're making 60,000 a year. It's all dependent on opportunities that arise for you. So we want to know how many people completed 12 years. So I go to my 12 years, and I just add up how many people completed. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 people completed 12 years of education, according to this graph. Did I mess up? If they said at least 4 years, I would. But or 12 years. But if we're just saying how many completed just 12, you're good. But if it says at least 12 years, that means 12 or greater. Okay? All right, the next thing is creating scatter plots, which is the most tedious part of all of it. You need to be able to determine what the independent and dependent variables are, so what goes on the bottom, what goes on the side, and then you're going to make a scatter plot. So we want to make a scatter plot that represents the relationship between a city's latitude and their temperature. So what do you think is dependent on the other? Christian?
The temperature is dependent on the latitude.
Right. Our latitude would go on the bottom because temperature depends on where your latitude is. So I would say temperature on the tall side, latitude on the dependent or independent. I'm leaving space because we're going to have to scale, and this is where I don't love it. I'm not a big fan of deciding how do I scale. So all I need is temperature and latitude. So it looks like location in latitude right here, and temperature is right here. Okay, so I'm looking at my numbers. Looks like I have 30s, 20s, 50s. So I go from 30, well, I have a 20 in there. So from 20 to like 58, 60. I'm going to try to do 5s. So make this 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. My temperatures range, I go up to 60, I have a 77. What's my lowest?
41. What did they say that?
I have a 39. So I'm going to start with 35 and go by 5s. There's going to be a couple values that are a little off the graph, but I can handle those. So 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. Did I account for everything?
They're going up to 8.
Perfect. That seems great. And now you just plot. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is all of this represents a point. These are points. Your X, your X, your Y. So Atlanta, Georgia, 34 is my latitude, 61 is my temp. Do not be a perfectionist. This is rough estimate, okay? So I am not being like 31, 32, 33, 34. I'm just saying, okay, it would be right before the 35, a little bit bigger than 60. Call it good. Don't be a perfectionist over it. 42 and 51, a little more than 40 and a little more than the 50. I will never say, hey, tell me what this point is exactly. I might say estimate what it could possibly be. Estimating is completely different than exact. So don't worry about that. Take a minute and complete the scatter plot. Okay, as you can see, creating the scatter plot, first off, I definitely wasn't a perfectionist at all. I made lots of rough estimates, and a couple of my rough estimates are off. I can see, but I'm going to be okay because I get the gist of it. Your goal with the scatter plot is to identify, is there a relationship going on? Does there seem to be a relationship here? Yes or no? Yeah. What's happening? As your latitude increases, your temperature seems to decrease. That's a positive or that's a negative relationship. It looks like it's going down, like you can envision a line that connects them. Okay? That's called a correlation. That means these things have a correlation. And correlation is just a type of relationship. That means the data do depend on each other. I spelled it wrong. If there's a correlation between something, it means that they depend on each other. Positive, going up a hill. Negative, looks like you're going down. No correlation, they're not by each other. They're randomly scattered all across. So we're going to talk about some real life examples. And you tell me, oh shoot, you're going to tell me if these are going to be positive or negative without memorizing where they just were. If they're going to be positive or negative. What? Oh, okay. Just say it out loud. Education and salary, what do you think?
Positive.
Positive. The more education you have, the higher the salary. It should increase together. Grades and the hours of electronics you use.
Negative.
No. There would be a negative. The hours of electronic usage means you're not putting that effort into school. There is a negative correlation. You are not doing as well. Huh? Well, we're assuming for leisure. Like Instagram, Snapchatting, texting, YouTubing, okay?
Instagramming. Fining.
Hours studied in grades.
Positive.
Yeah. The age you are and the amount of music you have. Okay. Could go multiple ways. We'll just go with no. the size of your TV and the amount of TV you watch.